Hi, and welcome back, Sprout Up scientists. My name is Fern, and today we're going to be talking about food and the environment. You might remember in the last video, you learned about community gardens and how there's food being grown right near you. Well, today we're learning about the importance of buying local. Buying food made in your local community can be a lot of fun. You get to support your local community and meet the farmers who grow your food. The food is always fresh, and you know where it comes from. It's also better for the environment to buy food at farmers markets, at street vendors, and from bodegas. Instead of buying food that's shipped from far away with boats and trucks and planes that pollute the air, this food is made right in your local community. There's less packaging on these foods too, so that means less plastic that's bad for the environment.
Friends, my name is Peach and I'm here to talk to you guys about composting. So what is composting? Well, it's a natural process that involves the recycling of organic materials such as leaves or food scraps, and then it's turned into fertilizer to help plants grow. And it's a super easy process that everyone can get involved in, even right here in New York City. So why should we compost? Well, 1/3 of our food scraps are sent to those big stinky landfills that are not so good for the environment. So instead, we can turn those scraps into compost and we can help make fertilizer so all these beautiful plants can grow. Now here are some do's and don'ts of composting. So you can compost fruit and vegetables, coffee grounds and filters, tea bags, eggshells, non-greasy food scraps. But you want to stay away from composting meat, fish, dairy, and anything oily or greasy. Great, so now you have your non-greasy food scraps. What do you do with them? Well, you're going to want to store them, and this can be either in a paper or plastic bag, a reusable container, or just so it doesn't get stinky, you might want to put it in your fridge or freezer. Okay, so then what? Well, now that you have your scraps, you can take them to a composting site, and those are located across the city, so you're sure to find one near you. And maybe on your way, you can stop at a farmer's market or a green market to buy some fresh produce. The scraps that you end up composting will be turned into this super nutrient-rich fertilizer that will be given to community members across New York City so that they can help these beautiful plants grow.
Hey, this is Lavender, and I'm going to talk to you about the history of composting. When we learn about the environment, it's important to know the history of the environment and how people have interacted with it over time. Scientists think that people have been composting for over 12,000 years. I'm going to talk about composting in America. Hundreds of years ago, people came over from countries like England to live in America. They were called the American settlers because they came here and made homes and settled down with their families. When they came here, they met Native Americans who had been living in America for a long time before them. Native Americans were very connected to the earth and used many different environmental practices. They taught American settlers how to compost, especially with fish. They wrapped seeds in leftover fish parts and planted them in the earth to make yummy and healthy nutrients for when the plants grew. They also used a practice called sheet composting. That means they layer different materials in the soil to help make the soil healthy and for the plants to grow. Today, huge farms compost with thousands of fish because it's so healthy for the soil and the plants growing in it. Lots of people compost at home, and so can you. Native Americans also had very creative ways of planting food. One of these practices is called the Three Sisters. This is a way to plant food that works with all different climates, warm weathers and cold weathers. It includes planting corn, beans, and squash together to protect the soil and control pests that like to eat the plants. This practice is around 3,000 years old. First, the corn is planted. Second, when the corn is 4 inches tall, beans are planted near the corn and squash is planted nearby. The corn provides a structure for the beans to climb on as they grow. The beans add important nutrients to the soil to help the corn and the squash grow. The squash shades the soil, like when you sit under an umbrella at the beach. So all three of the plants work together. After the plants are picked out of the ground to eat, the soil stays healthy and full of nutrients, making it a comfortable place for plants to grow.
So, what did we learn today? I'm going to ask you a couple of questions and I'll give you a little time to answer for yourself. Why should we compost? We should compost because it's good for the environment and it reduces waste. And what did we learn about the Native American food practices? We learned that it's always important to remember the history of how we grow our food and how we use it. There are so many practices that shape our environment. Lots of different people from around the world and from our history can teach us a lot of different things. Thank you so much for learning with us today, and we can't wait to see you next time.